Hello guys, you're welcome again to another After Effects tutorials, and today I want to show you how you can create an amazing infinite zoom into text, any element in Adobe After Effects. But today we're going to take a look at how we can zoom in through text and then reveal our logo like this one. So support me on this one, like the video, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on the notification bell, then come back, let's get started. Now in Adobe After Effects, I'm going to create a new composition. I'm simply going to name this whatever I like. I'm going to leave it to 1920 by 1080 resolution, and I will set the total duration to 14 seconds. I will then hit OK. I will right click on the timeline, go to new and create a new solid layer. Of course, we're going to name this BG for background. Then we'll make comp size and then hit OK. Now we're going to bring the logo in, navigate to where you have your logo, drag and drop it into the project manager window. We're going to change the setting to composition, then you hit OK. This is going to create a composition from the imported logo. Of course, we're going to need that. So drag and drop the new created composition into your timeline. We're going to have this, then we add a fill effect. Let's switch this to effects and control panel. I'm going to pull this to the right so that I can see a bit of what I am doing. So I'm going to change this to gray, then you hit OK. So hit S on your keyboard to scale this down to 40. I'll copy this fill effect, Ctrl C on my keyboard and Ctrl V on the BG. I don't want a complete black background, so I'm going to simply choose a dark gray for the BG. Now, before we continue, it is time to add our text. I'm going to hide this temporarily. Then I'll right click on the timeline, go to new and add a new text layer. Feel free to type in whatever you want. This is the first text layer. I'm going to hold down Ctrl key and double click on the anchor tool right here so that I will center the anchor point. Of course, I'm going to align this to center. Then what I'm going to do now is to duplicate this text layer, Ctrl D on your keyboard. Then I'm going to hide the first text layer, and then I will edit this one by picking the text tool right here. Ctrl A to highlight all, and I will type in what I like. So I'm going to simply repeat the same process and create two more text layers. Now we have all the entire text typed in. So, but before we continue into the infinite zoom through the text, I'm going to simply create a simple logo animation so that in the end we'll have this animation. So what I'm going to do now is to pick on the rectangle tool, make sure no layer is selected, then I will create a new solid over the text. Of course, feel free to animate this to whatever you like, but I'm just going to create this simple animation to spice things up. So I'm going to set the text track matte to alpha matte. That way I'll have my text. Then I will start from 2 seconds forward in time. And I'll hit P on my keyboard to reveal the position, and I'll set a position for the text. I will move the keyframe forward. I will then move the text into the logo icon. I will select this and easy ease and then edit the speed graph. And now we'll have this simple animation. We can always come back to this to adjust the timing, but I believe this should be okay. Then let's go back to our main composition and start animating. We're going to select the entire text right here and the logo, and then toggle this timeline to reveal our motion blur icon and activate it for this composition, and make sure also it is activated for this timeline. So I'm going to start animating. Now I'm going to hide this last text and go back to the first text I created at the bottom, which is welcome to. So I'm going to quickly create my first animation. I'll hit UU on my keyboard to reveal the options. Then I'll go to animate and then add tracking. I'll move my time indicator to about 1 second forward in time and set a keyframe for the tracking amount. Then I'll move back to 0 seconds and expand the tracking like this. And this is okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to go into this add option right here, go to properties, and I'll add blur. Set the blur amount to 60. I'll go to add again and add another property. This time around, I'm going to add opacity. Set opacity value to 45. Add another property. I'll add scale. Set the scale value to 50. Expand the range selector right here. You're going to see the offset option. Set a keyframe for the offset and change the value to -100. Then I'll move my time indicator to 1 second forward in time and change the value of the offset to 100. And this is what we have. So I'm going to go into the advanced option right here, change the shape to ramp up, from square to ramp up. Now if we preview, this is what we have. Beautiful. With my text stick selected, I'm going to move my time indicator to 2 seconds forward in time. I will hit scale on my keyboard and set a keyframe. I will hold down shift key and hit P on the keyboard and also set a keyframe for the position. So I'm going to move to 3 seconds forward in time, that is 1 second in between. Then I'm going to zoom this to about 3000. That is, I'll change the scale value to 3000. So I'm going to shift move the position until I have my camera or my view passing through the O. So in your own case, the font might be different. So I'm going to scale this down a bit. I'll select the keyframes and then easy ease. I'm going to select the second text, which is the infinite zoom, and unhide it and make sure it is visible. I'm going to offset it to this point to where I have the animation happening. Then I'll hit S on my keyboard to reveal the scale keyframe and then set a keyframe for the scale. Then I'll move back to the first keyframe on the first text and then set the scale value to 0. I'll also edit the speed graph. If you preview now, this is what we have. Beautiful. So right now at this point, we're going to create a controller for these first two animations that we created. That way we will be able to control the first scale and the second scale without necessarily creating additional keyframe for these both layers. That will shrink down the amount of keyframe we're going to be using in this tutorial. So I'm going to right click on my timeline, go to new, and then create a new null object. I'm going to name this controller 1. I will center the anchor point and make sure I also align this to center. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure I change the color to any color I like, in this case green, so that I can also always know my controller on the timeline. So I'm going to select these first two text layer and make it a child of the new controller. So what this does is, if I control this now, I can control both text. So I'm going to hit S on my keyboard to reveal the keyframe and then move my time indicator to about 4 seconds forward in time and set a keyframe for the scale value and then the position. So I'll move my time indicator to 5 seconds forward in time and change the scale to about 3000. I'm going to offset the position like this. I will have to increase this scale till I get what I love. Something like this is okay. Sometimes to know exactly what works, you have to unhide the next text. Beautiful. Yes, this is okay. I'm just going to simply scale in a bit so I'll have more room. We're going to move this to this point and then hit S on the keyboard to reveal the scale property and then set a keyframe for that. Then move back to the next keyframe backward and set the scale value to 0. Also edit the speed graph This is what we have. So we're gonna animate the next one. So for us to be able to control this next text and the new one, so we're still gonna create a new controller. Right click on your timeline and create a null object. Name this controller 2. I'm gonna also change the color so that I can see what I'm doing right here, just to keep things organized. So I'll offset this to this point where the next animation is gonna happen. So I will select this last text I animated and the controller 1 and make it a child of the controller 2. That way I'll just simply animate the controller 2. I'll move to 6 seconds forward in time. Hit S on the keyboard to reveal the scale property. I'll set a keyframe for the scale and position. Then I'll move my time indicator to 7 seconds. That is 1 second after. Then I'll scale this to about 3000 or less. And now this is what you have. At this point, I'm gonna trim down each of these text so that it will no longer be visible, because I will be needing to offset this in the position. So what I'm gonna do now is to select this last text right here, which is this. I will hold down Option key or Alt key on my keyboard and hit the bracket close, and then that will trim it down. So I'll also do the same thing to the bottom one, which is this. Now I'll offset the position so that I can give a view to the next text. So unhide the next text so that we can see if that space is enough. Of course not, so we're gonna still offset this to the left and probably increase the scale to over 3000. All this will depend on your preferences and what your scale size is for the text. This is okay. I'll ease the keyframes, and then I'll offset this next text to about this point. I will hit S on my keyboard to reveal the scale property for it and set a keyframe. Then I'll go back to the last keyframe 1 second backward and then set the scale value to 0. So I will ease the keyframes. So but I'm gonna do something a little bit different right here. When you get to this point, I wouldn't want the entire text to show when it is zooming in. So what I'm gonna do is to hit UU on the keyboard so that I will reveal all the properties. I'll go to animate and add an opacity. So I'll set the opacity to 0. Then I will expand the range selector and make sure I pull this to about the point where I have the first line visible, only the first line, like this. Then I will set a keyframe. I'll hit U on my keyboard to reveal the keyframes. So what I'm gonna do now is to move this keyframe a little bit backward and then move forward in time and set the offset value to 100. So that way the animation just finished showing. So if you preview from this point now, you see what I just did there. This is just to add more style to this. So now it is time to reveal the logo. You can add more text if you want, but at this point it is time to add the logo. So I'm gonna unhide the logo right here and I'll offset it on my timeline to this point. This is the time also we create a new controller. So I'm gonna select this last text I animated and then the last controller below it and make it a child of the new controller. So I'll hit S on my keyboard to reveal the position, the scale property for the new controller. I'll move my time indicator to about 8 seconds forward in time and set a keyframe for the scale and position. Then I will move 1 second forward and scale this to about 2000 plus. I'm gonna simply just add the scale a bit. I will ease the keyframes. So I'll select the logo layer and make sure I move it to this point. I'll go to the last keyframe on the last layer and I will hit S on my keyboard to reveal the scale property for the logo. I'll set a scale, then I'll go back to the last keyframe on the bottom layer and then set this scale value to 0. I'll ease the keyframes. So I'm gonna create a new null object to control the last animation and the logo. So I'll create a new controller. So what I'm gonna do, I'll make the logo and the last controller a child of the new controller. I'll hit S on my keyboard to reveal the scale property. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move to this point about where the animation is revealing finally. So I'll set a keyframe for the scale. Then I'll move forward in time just about 1 second like we have been doing. And then change the scale until I can no longer see the last layer animated, something like this. But if you are okay to see some part of it, it is also beautiful if you like that. Now let's run preview the entire thing. And this is what you have. You can see the beginning where we made that simple animation for the logo. You can create more logo animation to this. If you want to know how to animate your logo, check my other tutorials. You can find link in the description. So with this kind of style, you can animate any type of an element, zooming in infinitely. So this is how you can create an infinite zoom from your text to logo or text to whatever you like in Adobe After Effects. If you learned something new on this video, please hit the like button. That will enable the algorithm to suggest this to more people. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me in the comment section and I'll reply to all questions as quick as I can. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can support me in any way. You can give me super thanks, subscribe to my membership, whatever way you want to support me with. Even if you share the video, that is also a huge support and it is highly appreciated. If you like the video, leaving a comment is all a support. So with whatever way you are able to support me, I highly appreciate you. So until I see you again on the next one, my name is SSB Otaru from MotionDigit Studios.